Good morning, everyone. This is Marie with Your New School. Hi, Nancy. I'm going to make you co-host. And then we're going to start in about 10 minutes. We're just going to wait for students to start jumping on. I'll make all of my normal announcements. And then we'll get started. So for those students who are currently on, if you can please utilize the chat box and type in your full name, your full school name, and your school location. This is for attendance purposes, so I can send that over to your schools.
Hi, Marie. This is Nancy.
How are you?
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Vice. I forgot my earrings today as I came here and I turned the computer and I said, oh, okay.
I feel naked when I don't have certain pieces of jewelry on.
I know. Well, there's only so much of me that you can see, so. Okay, can I get the control so I can bring the PowerPoint up?
Yeah, I made you co-host already, so you should already be able to do that.
Okay.
And I'll let you know if I can.
No. Why is this not doing it? Okay. Well.
Okay, I can see your PowerPoint.
Great, thank you.
And for those who just logged in, if you can please make sure that you are utilizing the chat box and that you are putting in your full name, your full school name, and your school location into the chat box. This is for attendance purposes. So we're going to get started in about 5 minutes. For those of you who have just jumped on, please make sure that you are typing in your full name, your full school name, and your school location into the chat box. This is for attendance purposes. please don't abbreviate your school name. A lot of schools have the same abbreviation, so I want to make sure that I'm getting your attendance to the right school, and the location of your school just helps, especially if you are from a school that has multiple campuses, so I know which campus to send your information to. So again, full name, full school name, and your school location into the chat box for attendance.
Hey Beth, how you doing? Are you ready for me? Yes, ma'am.
So again, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. If you have not done so already, please make sure that you are typing in your full name, your full school name, and location into the chat box for attendance. Ira, what school are you with? I see your name in the chat box, but you didn't type in your school name. All right, thank you.
Hello, it's Judy.
Judy, how are you?
Good. I'm only going to be able to be on for a little while.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, I got to remind a school of mine. I'll be right back.
Okay, so for those of you who are just jumping on, we're going to get started in just a minute with Nancy West from Color Lab Cosmetics. If you have not done so already, please make sure that you have typed in your full name, your full school name, and your school location into the chat box. This is for attendance purposes. Please do not abbreviate your school name, since a lot of schools have very similar, if not the same, abbreviations. And location is important, especially if you come from a school that has multiple campuses. So again, all of this information needs to be in the chat box so that we can track attendance. It's the only thing that saves after I log out. Also, during the presentation, please be mindful of your microphones. Please keep them on mute. It helps to minimize feedback noise. Also, please keep your cameras turned off. This helps so that the presentation has less buffering or lagging or delay. So again, keep your microphones muted, your cameras turned off, and be sure to type in your information into the chat box. Again, I need your full name, your full school name, and your school location. And Nancy, I'm turning everything over to you. I'm going to mute my microphone as well. So welcome, Nancy West.
Thank you, Marie. Well, as Marie said, I'm Nancy Ogden West with Color Love Cosmetics. I'm the Director of Business Development and Education for the company. And I thought I would share with you custom blending lipsticks today and glosses. I just recently read an article a couple of days ago, and there was a survey taken back in October of 2019 with 5,700 beauty women who are into their cosmetics. 77% of those women said they are looking for customized cosmetic products. And so it just really enhances the fact that customization for our clients is really the newest direction and the individuality that our clients are looking for at the same time. Lipstick and lip gloss is so much fun to make. So that's why I thought that I would share this with you today. And first of all, when you look at the slide that you see there, across the bottom are a combination of pigment stains and toners. Pigments have more density. They have a higher payoff when you work with them. Stains have more sheerness to them, so they do not create a more dense color when you work with them. You know, the tube or the core of the lipstick may look stronger than it actually looks when you put it on. And then toners are what we use to tweak our colors as we're working with them. They do not stand alone. On the second shelf there, you see frost and foils. We have a large variety of those. In fact, these frosts are the same things that we make or use for eyeshadows, anything for luminescence that's in a powder formation. We can even put these powders into a liquid at the same time. So it works either way with that. And our foils are made of fine cut polyester, which are FDA approved for the face. So you are gonna see down the road here, not too far away, remember how we had to take microbeads out of all of our scrubs because they were accumulating in the ocean? Well, because glitter has been so popular for the last, I would say about 7 to 8 years now. They're seeing accumulation of glitter in the ocean because remember, a huge percentage of glitter out there on the market is made from little plastic and it's not biodegradable. So you're going to see a change happening with glitter. Up on the next row up, those are our special additives. Okay, some create moisturization, some slip and glide, antioxidant protection, also lip plumping. So those are what those are. And then we have flavors and essences. Those are food grade to put a scent into the formula. But I tell our clients, if a client does not like scent in their lipstick or their lip glosses, you don't have to put it in. We are a clean line. Clean line means that we have organic ingredients, natural ingredients, some man-made ingredients that have great benefit and do not irritate the skin. So there's a lot of organic and natural ingredients within our products. So let's get started with, first of all, the different bases you have to choose from. Okay, so all of our bases come in a container like that. And you can make 2 lipsticks out of each one of the lipstick bases. So the first one you see there in the lipstick base section is a cream base. That is a traditional moisturizing lipstick. That can be either sheer or full body. Now, what is the difference between sheer and full body? It's the amount of pigment that you put into the formulation. Now, I'm going to call our stains and our toners pigments just to keep that straight across the board, okay? So when you're doing 2 lipsticks, you can go up to 3.0 units of pigment. If you want to make that product sheer, you would only go to 1.5. So that's the difference between a sheer product and a more full-bodied, high payoff product. Next is your matte base. And your matte base has, and all of our bases have natural plant waxes of carnauba and candelia wax in them. Your matte base also has some paraffin in it, and that's because it helps to create a flat look on the lip, and that paraffin helps to hold moisture in at the same time. You could make this matte base sheer, but when a person is looking for a matte base formulation, they're looking for a high pigment formula, right? They're not looking for a sheer formula. So I say with your matte bases, 99.9% of the time, you're going to be making a very full body pigmented color. To the right of that is your butter base. Butter base is like a lip shine. It has a high shine onto the lip when you put it on, and that formulation holds half the amount of pigment as the other two. So with your butter base, you can do 2 lipsticks out of it, but you can only go up to 1.5 units of pigment when working with that one. Down on the second row, you see an organic natural base. That is a moisturizing base. Now, when you think about it, anytime we claim, and anybody claims that a product is organic, you can only use ingredients that are approved on the organic list of ingredients. So that has all organic ingredients in it, and it has some great organic oils in it at the same time, besides your carnauba and your Candelia wax, which again are natural plant waxes. And that is a moisturizing formula that can be sheer or full body. From there, you go to liquid matte bases. Liquid matte bases are a totally different creature than regular lipstick or even lip gloss is. So there's no wax in that form of base whatsoever. And this is designed to create that flat matte look that is in wand like a gloss is. Next, we're going to go down to our gloss bases. The gloss bases come in the same container, and depending on the packaging style they would go in would depend on whether you can get 1 or 2 products out of the container. The first one you see there is a lip gloss base. The lip gloss base is a very traditional base. When glosses first came on the market, this was the base that they were used. And most of our glosses today have soft waxes in it. Traditional glosses, just like this one, when it came out, had hard wax in it. It has also the carnauba and the Candelia wax in it. So once that product is made, then it is going to wear more like a lipstick because it does have some hard wax on it. And it has to go into a pot because it's going to congeal firm again. But you can make the sheer or full body. And this formulation wears more like a lipstick, and that's because of the hard wax that's in it. To right of that, you have lip glacé. Lip glacé creates a vinyl. That's a new word. We used to call this patent leather. But if you've been looking at what's going on out there in lip glosses, which have become huge again right now, one of the new looks is a vinyl look, which is a very high shine lip gloss. Now, this formula on its own can only hold a small amount of pigment. But we do have an additive that if you put into that formula, you can bring your pigment level up higher with that. And that's going to create that new vinyl look that we're seeing this season. To the right of that is your lip gloss smoothie. This is like a lip balm. So for clients who like the lip balm, this is a perfect formulation for them. And this has a lot of healing qualities to it with your vitamin E and your green tea in it at the same time. That can be sheer or full bodied also. Down onto the second row is lip polish. Lip polish almost sits between glacé and smoothie. It has a great shine to it. Okay, again, the last 3 I've talked about are made with soft waxes, so they always go into a tube when you're working with them. And this has also some green tea in it. It's got some prickly pear in it at the same time, which works on conditioning and renewing the lip area. That can be sheer or full body. And then all the way over to the right is our natural organic lip gloss. Again, all the ingredients are organic within that formulation. That is considered moisturizing, and it can be sheer or full bodied also. Next, let's take a look at our pigments. Now, with your pigments, as I said earlier, some are stains and some are toners. And you can see right on the bottom of the screen, those are your toners. Now, with your pigments, they come in the bottle that you see on the left there. And when we're working with them, we put those down on a calibrator board. That's what this is. I was talking about units of color. If you look at this board, you will see that there is a number next to or in each one of those circles. That circle represents that much unit of pigment. So that's how we count our pigment up that we're putting into a formulation when we are making it. The first product you see there on the cool side is Blackberry. Blackberry is a stain, and that is a red violet. So when you add that into a formulation, it's going to make the formulation look much darker, but the payoff is going to be lighter and brighter, and that's because of the sheerness of the product. Next to that is magenta. Magenta is a pigment, and that's a great transitional color. I can go down and mix that with some of my toners and totally change the undertone of that color, just by using one pigment into it. To the right of that is red ruby, or ruby red, I'm sorry, and that is a stain, and that is a cool, bright blue-based red. And then to the white of that is wineberry. Wineberry is a pigment, and that is a darkened red. Yes. So that's your cool colors. Now, when you go to the next row, these are your warm colors. The first one you see is coral. Then when you think about coral, coral can be a cool, a neutral, or a warm. This is a yellow-based pink, so this is a warm coral. Next to that, and that's a pigment, next to that is crimson. Crimson is a stain, and that is a yellow-red. Flame is a yellow-orange, and that is a stain also. To the right of that, you have paprika. Paprika is a pigment, and that is a red-orange. Going down to the second row is your peach. Now, peach is not a product that stands alone. We use it to lighten our warm colors and keep them on the warm side. But we can take peach, mix it into our cool colors, and what it does is it starts to cut some of the blue base of that color and take it towards a neutral to warmer side, all depending on how much you put into the formulation. To the right of that is red red. And red red is what we call a neutral, and that is a pigment. So if you look at this, you can see we have a variety of reds. Up in the top row, you have ruby red and wineberry. Down in your second row down, you have crimson and paprika. And then in your fourth row down, you have red red. From your reds, mixed with white or peach, you can create various shades of pinks and corals. Then next to red red is russet. Russet is a stain, and that's a rusty orange color. And then to the right of that is tangerine, and tangerine is a true orange. From there, we go down to our browns. And what your browns do, your browns will mute color, and they will darken a color when you add them in. So the first color brown is a yellow-based brown. It carries warmth to it. To the right of that is mahogany. Mahogany is a cool rose-based brown. Let's say I want to create a mauve tone. What I can do to create a mauve is I can take my white pigment, mix it with my mahogany, which is a rose brown, and it creates a real dusty, muted mauve tone. Then, if I want to tweak it and add a little bit more life to it, add a little more pink into it, I'll pick up something like magenta there and a little magenta into it, and then I start pinking up that mauve tone and just giving it a little bit more life. To right of that is cocoa. Cocoa is a blue-based brown. Think of that like a taupey brown. If you want to create a JLo type color, those light beigey colors with luminescence to it, that would be taking your white pigment, mixing it with your cocoa, and then throwing your luminescence into it at that point. Down below there are your toners. As I said, your toners don't stand alone. The first one you see is black. Black, when we add it in, just takes the depth of a color and brings it right down, so it anchors it down. Blueberry is what we use when we want to create that violet purple hue. Marigold is a bright yellow. When we add that in, it warms the color and it keeps the color bright. Example, I can take that marigold, mix it with the magenta that you see on the screen there, and it turns it into a bright coral. The next color is ochre. Ochre is like an olive. If I take ochre and mix it into that magenta, I turn the color into a rose tone that's more neutral in nature. The more of that I would add in, the more it can start to warm the color. The next row down is sapphire. Sapphire is a blue. When we want to create more coolness and clarity to a cool color, adding some sapphire into it is going to do that. Also, it's just going to darken the color down just a little bit. And then you have your white. Your white lightens the color and cools the color at the same time. Now, if you look at the difference between white and peach, remember peach is up in the warm, first one in the second row there. Peach isn't quite as light, so it doesn't lighten things as much, okay? White is really gonna lighten things more, and it always cools. I can take my warm colors that I have there by adding white into them, depending on the amount that I add, and I can start changing that warm color into a neutral and even farther into a cool color. So those are all your pigments, stains, and toners. Now next, let's go over to our frost category. These are so much fun to work with. You know, I tell our clients that we have a product called Stuck On You, which comes in a little dropper bottle. It's a liquid with soy protein in it. You wet your eyeliner brush down. I tell them that they can, you know, metallic eyeliners is out there right now. They can wet that brush down, mix it with some of their frost that they have, and they can create metallic eyeliners with it. Okay, so these can go into lipsticks or glosses. So you've got your cool colors. Now, all of these frosts have pigment in them. So when you add frost into a formulation, it is going to change the color a bit because there is pigment in those. So first of all, you see antique gold, and that's a beautiful darkened gold. A couple of years ago, when the metallic lips were really big, lip glosses and lipsticks, I made a beautiful color out of that I called it molten bronze. The only difference between making a metallic compared to making a regular color that has frost to it is that you add an extra large scoop of frost into that formulation. So you're adding more frost, it's creating more of a metallic finish onto it. Next to that, you see brass. Brass is a warm brown. That will darken and warm a color when you add it in. Crystal's like a white. And if maybe I put as much pigment in my formulation as I can or I want to, but I still want to alter the color at that point. Let's say I want to lighten it a little bit more. I know if I pick up crystal and add that into my formula, it's going to lighten the formula down. Now you may think, well, I don't always want to have a luminescent finish to my products. You really need to add one large scoop of frost before you really truly start to get a luminescent finish onto your formulations there. Next is bronze. Bronze is a cool dark brown. Now, what I love about that color and being cool and pretty neutral also at the same time, it will darken a formula for you when you add it in. Like I've done a beautiful red lipstick and turned it into a candy apple red by taking that and putting bronze frost into it. Just gorgeous with that type of finish. You can think about what a candy apple red looks like on a car. Below that, you see fuchsia. Fuchsia is your bright magenta. It's always going to brighten the color up a little bit and throw some pink into it. Garnet is a cool red, but it's not a bright red. It's a muted red. So when we put it on, it's going to continue to add red into the color, or maybe we're mixing it into a formula that's a little bit lighter and we want to darken it and throw a little bit more of a pinky cast into it. Garnet will do that for you. Opal looks white when you look at it, so it's actually going to lighten the color, but it has that blue violet opal finish to it. And your pink also looks white in nature, but that has a pink opal finish to it. Down below that is rose gold, and that's a neutral. That's a beautiful neutral rose tone with some gold added into it. Now you can take these frosts all by themselves and not even put pigment in a gloss formulation or lipstick if you want to create a luminescent product or high luminescent product. Next to that is russet, and russet is your red, a reddish with a little bit of brown on the cool side of color. That also is going to darken and throw some red into the color. You've got your silver, which is a traditional silver, and then you have violet, and violet is a lavender. Now I always tell people, remember, lavender has a blue base to it, and a blue base can have a tendency to mute things down just a little bit. So just think about that when you're adding that into a color. Next, you go down to our warm category. The first one you see is copper, which is up there on the screen in the container to the left, and that's what all the frosts come in. You know, if you're into doing the darker brown lipsticks from the 70s trend that is still out and around there, okay, it's important when we do those deeper browns that we throw some life into them. Otherwise, they can have a tendency to look flat on the lips. So copper would be a beautiful little frost to throw into one of those brown, darker colors on the warmer side. Your coral, again, is a yellow pink. It's a little bit of a softer color, but again, adding color and adding the little life into a formulation is going to do that. Then you have your gold, and your gold is traditional gold. The one thing I do tell people when I'm working with them, because I give them a little flexibility as what they want to put into the formulation, because we go through an analysis process. So you have to think when you're making a formulation and you put some pigments together, so to say, and you mix it up, because you've started with an idea of what you were trying to make, or what your goal is to make, and you look at that and you say, okay, where do I want to see it go from there? You know, do I want it darker? Do I want it pinker? Do I want it more peach? What do you want? That helps you make a decision of what other pigments or what frost you may want to add to your formula. Now, you don't have to put frost into a formula. That's totally up to the color that you're making and the client that you're working with at the same time. Next, you have sienna, and sienna is your warm red brown. Again, that's going to darken and add a warmer red color into the formula. And then sand is a beautiful peachy gold color, and it's on the softer side in working with it. Then you go down into your neutrals, and champagne sets there. Champagne is a taupey beige. It always surprises people when they put that in a color that has some brightness to it. Being a taupey beige, and think about again, being a taupe, when they add that into a color, what it does is it mutes the color out. So if I'm doing just a total neutral tone, you know, then that's great. In fact, I'm going to put some in I'm going to do a neutral gloss, and I'm going to do a pink lipstick. You know, pink is big for summer, and of course neutrals are huge anyway right now. So I'm going to add that into a neutral so we don't see a huge color change. But if we are putting it into a color that's a coral or a red or a pink, it will tone the color right down. And then to the right of that, you have pink gold. And pink gold is a lighter pink with gold into it. Again, I mean, all of these are beautiful. They're just gorgeous to work with. Below that are multidimensional colors. Multidimensional colors are what we call shadow shifters. They shift from one color into another color into another color. Okay, so they create a holographic effect. And you're going to start to see coming up in the future here more with holographic going on. We first saw it come in the way of fabric with clothing for raincoats in the fall. We saw a lot of raincoats that had a finish to them that kind of changed colors as the fabric moved. That's your holographic effect. Now, another thing that I talk about with clients is that you can take these frosts and you can create accessory products with them, which means you could take it and they can lay it on top of a lipstick, and these multidimensionals are fabulous for that. And it slightly changes the color of the lipstick at that point. So it's a lot of fun to work with. Next, we're going to go into our foils. And our foils are glitter. And as I said, our glitter is made of fine cut polyester. So again, these could be great things that you could create accessory products out of. Like this is ruby. And look how cool that looks into a squeeze tube. Or you can put it into a wand. Okay, so all that is with a gloss base and glitter added into it. So you can see we have a variety of colors. Blush, which is a pink, bronze is a gold, a brown, kind of a, what's a bronze? That's what it is. Nugget is a gold, platinum is a silver, ruby is what I just showed you as a red, and twinkle has a rainbow effect to it. So again, those can be added. I primarily add my foils into lip gloss because they get a better payoff than they do into a lipstick. Also, I recommend to our clients, because glitter's so huge, is to get some of our small containers and fill those with some glitter and sell those by themselves. You know, because this would be something, maybe it's not me, but maybe one of you young ones are going out clubbing for the night. Maybe you want to create that real heavy glitter mouth. What you would do is put a lipstick on first and then take your glitter with a sponge tip applicator, pick the glitter up and press it onto the lip, and you could, that's how you create that heavy glitter mouth. If you want to do a glitter lid, so to say, what I do is I take our cream base and a Teflon synthetic brush, just a little bit of that cream, and I will apply it onto the lid where I want to place the glitter. And then again, I take a sponge tip applicator and I lay the glitter down. I just press it down. The glitter has to have something to adhere to stay onto the skin. So those are all of your foils. Next, our flavors and our additives. Okay, so for our flavors, and the blue bottle with the dropper in it is what all of those come into, except for one, and that's not a flavor, it's one of our additives down below. Flavor just means if they lick their lips, they're gonna slightly taste the flavor. Essence means they just smell the aroma. The flavors and essences are food grade, okay? Next, down onto your special additives. The first thing you see is lip release. Now that does not actually go into the formulation. That's what we use to prepare our lipstick mold. The lip release, think of it like Pam when you're cooking and you're spraying your pan so things don't stick. Well, that's what this does. It allows us to put the lipstick into the mold. Once it congels, we can slide it right out at that point. Below that, you see your lip plump additive. Your lip plump additive has your Matrixyl 3000 in it. So that is a plumping agent for the lips. And again, I usually take my lip plump additive and put it into my lip glosses because it has a better delivery system that way. Moisture additive is something that we use when we put frost into a formulation. When you add frost into a lipstick base, it dries the base out. So we have to compensate for the dryness that the frost is going to create. And that's what moisture additive does. Now, another thing I can do with moisture additive, if I want my cream or my matte base to feel creamier in nature, I can go in and I can add a milliliter of moisture additive into that formula, and it creates a creamier formula for that. So I tell people, when you're making products, you're customizing it to how you like, or what your client would like at the same time. It's kind of a hand-in-hand relationship that you've got going on there. Next, we go down to our mineral sunscreen. This is a pure zinc mineral sunscreen that you can add into the formulation that will take your SPF up to 36. Below that, and that is in the tube you see over to the left, is a product called Bodybuilder. Bodybuilder adds some luster and strength into a formulation. So if you want to add that in, you can add it into your lipsticks. Now, if this can also go into the glacé base. Remember I said the glacé base earlier only holds a small amount of pigment and frost. If you want to bring the volume up to a higher level to go with this other gloss bases that you have, then by adding Bodybuilder into the formulation, you can bring your pigment and your frost or foil level up with that. To the right, we already talked about the moisture additive. Next is another sunscreen that we have. Now, this sunscreen has octylmethacrynamate in it, which is created from a ester from cinnamon. So it's not a chemical. We create a cinnamon ester and turn it into a sunscreen. And then below that is silconene modifier. That has a group of botanical oils in it, and that creates slip and glide when you put that product on. Lastly is your multifloral complex, and that is your antioxidant complex, a very important complex for you. And that's got a deck of minerals in it: zinc, magnesium, iron, okay? Those are in there for antioxidants. Okay, next, let's look at your tools. So first, we have two different styles of lip molds. The first one you see there is a standard mold. It's a round lipstick with a slant angle at the top. The next one to the right of that is a Gothic mold, which means it has numerous cuts around it and it's got a pointed tip on it. Now, that mold that you see there, once you pour the lip product into it, it will congeal the lipstick in 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, that's when we'll go in, we cut the top off, we take the top section off the mold, we put the lipstick tube down on it, then we just pull the lipstick straight out at that point. Down below that, you see a lipstick rose mold. To the right of the compact there, that's a silicone mold. These can be great, especially for nighttime, because you know how tiny the purses are for night when we're going out. You know, they can be really tiny. And I'm somebody who wants to carry my lipstick or a gloss, one of those two with me. Usually in a small bag like that, it's going to be a lipstick. Okay, so you can pour the formula into it. Just takes a small amount, not a lot. Let it congeal. We sell the compacts empty. Then once it congeals, you just turn it upside down, pop it right in, and you've got that beautiful rose design. Down below that, you'll see some spatulas. The first one is a bent knife spatula. The reason for your bent knife spatula is it allows to get your fingers underneath that, hold it tight, and keep the blade flat. So when we are working and mixing, it's pushing and grinding, and that's why we want to have that flat on the calibrator board. To the right of that is just a straight spatula, and to next to that is just a very smaller straight spatula. Then to the right of that, you see 3 different size scoops, a tiny, a small, and a large. That's what we use when we're measuring our frosts and foils. So when you're making a lipstick and you're making 2 lipsticks, you can use 2 large scoops of frost into that formulation, right? So you're small, it takes 2 smalls to equal a large. It takes 7 tinies to equal a small. So when you're working, depending on how much you want to add, or when I'm developing a color, I don't want to get too carried away. I work with my tiny a lot and add tinies until I get it to where I want it to be. These are always flat tops, and that's because it's important that you are able to reproduce your product. Down on the next level, you see a disposable lip brush. Once you take your pigment and you mix your wax with it, before you even put it in the microwave to melt it down, you can test a color to see if that's where you want it to be, or do you want to tweak it at that point. Below or next to that are disposable cups. Sometimes you can go in if you want to, and you can split your base in half, and you can just make 1 lipstick at a time. So when you do that, because you still have the other half of the base in there, those disposable cups are used to put your product in to go into the microwave so you can melt it and pour it into the mold. Next to it is just a pouch that has a lip brush in it. And then right to that, you see a slide chart. Now on that slide chart, on the front of it, it has the pigment color on one side, and then across the top, you see the toners. And it says, if you put that color toner in that color pigment, that's the color it starts to turn it. When you turn it over on the back, it has your pigment colors at the top and the frost colors are down the side. So again, if you put that color frost into that color pigment, that's how it starts to turn the color. Now the calibrator board, which I showed you just a minute ago. Now we don't actually put product on the calibrator board. You get these plastic sheets and all of your pigment and waxes are put and worked with on that. We take this and we move it around to drop our pigments into the center, and that's what we're using in mixing our product up. Color wheel, just to give you a relationship to color and mixing colors together and what it will do, and then a client record card to be able to put the client's formula on. I always recommend to clients that they put together a range of colors from warm, neutral to cool, light to dark, intense to muted, so they can give their clients the idea of looking at color. Because one thing I have found working with clients, like, they don't know how to talk color, most of them. You know, so if we visually show them things, then they can look at something and say, well, I like this, but maybe I'd like to see it not as bright, or I'd like to see it just a little bit pinker. okay, whatever it may be, however they will communicate. So it's always important to have a deck of colors there that they can look at as examples, and it helps with communication with them a little easier. And then the last thing we're going to go to is your packaging options. Now, our packaging comes in black or silver. So you see in the first row, a black and a silver sleek lipstick tube. We don't do the silver bullets anymore. To the right of that, and we're going to go to the last two on the right, you see the lipstick wands. And with those lipstick wands, you can make 2 glosses out of each container. Okay, so those come in silver and black with the doe foot in them. Down below are stackable pots. Those are great if you're doing any on location work for your own toolkit. But, you know, for women that work on the road, and there's a lot of women out there traveling, working today, you know, they might want to take a variety of colors, but they don't want to take all those different lipstick tubes. You can make their colors also and put them into these stackable tubes. Just give them an extra lid. So for that day, they can take that color out, put a lid on it, carry it with them. And I also recommend just selling them a retractable lip brush with that at the same time. Next, you see a 6-well black compact. You get those empty on the right. You see a little lip brush that's in there and it has a mirror on the compact. These are great. You see these in stores where they have a variety of different colors in them. So you can just create these. Maybe you can use a product that you have left. Maybe you have a theme that you're putting together and you're going to make a variety of those, you know, that you can put on your retail shelf to sell. Okay, those are great with that. Now, the only lip gloss formula you could put into it is your traditional lip gloss formula, and that's because it congeals firm again. And talking about that lip gloss formula, next to that palette, you see 2 pots, one in black, one in silver. When you're working with your lip gloss formula, that is what you're going to put it in, because remember, as I said earlier, those have some hard wax in it. They're going to congeal firm again. To the right of that is a squeeze tube, which you saw I showed you with the foils in it, and then a square pot. So that's everything that goes into your lipstick package. Now, when people, oops, how do I, okay. Let me try to get my screen bigger. Marie, can you help me get my screen bigger?
Hang on. I'm gonna make you the spotlight
Thank you.
video. There you go.
And can we take the little side section away here somehow? We'll minimize that. Okay, got it. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we do this. I'm going to take my camera. I'm going to move it over onto my blending area. Now, when our clients purchase one of these systems, they go into usually a 4-hour training with me on this. Okay, so first of all, you see the plastic sheet. I have it sitting on top of my calibrator board. To create that pink lipstick that I'm talking about, I picked 3 different colors. I have wineberry, again, which is a cool red. I have white, and then I have my mahogany, which is a cool rose-based brown. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to center my sheet right here at the 1.50. Now, because these are liquids, you always want to shake them up first. And because you're pouring out of them, I always take a tissue to take the cap off, so I don't want to get pigment all over my hands. Even if you have gloves on, you got to keep your gloves wiped off. You go a 1/2 inch above the center of the appropriate circle. You grab that bottle, you do a nice, firm, tight squeeze until the pigment fills the black circle lines, okay? And then I always wipe my bottle off before I put the cap back on it. Next, I'm gonna use my white. I'm gonna move my sheet a little bit. I'm gonna use 1 unit of white, again, starting in the center, doing a nice firm squeeze and letting it fill out the circle line. Now, before I put the mahogany in, I want to show you what happens when you take wineberry. Remember I said your reds, when you work with them, are always going to create more of a pink color. Look at that. So when I mix white into my wine berry, it creates a bright berry hue. Okay? Turn my light off here. I think you can probably see better now. Now, next, I'm going to give myself a little room. Next, I'm going to pick up my mahogany and I'm going to go in and add 0.50. So it was 1.5 of wineberry, 1 unit of white, and 0.50 units of mahogany. Now look, when I add mahogany into this color, how it starts to darken and mute the color down. So being summer, you know, we do a little bit more brightness with our colors. Okay, so that's my color mixture. I've gone up to 3 units of pigment in that. Next, I'm going to take my cream base, I put the cap underneath it, and I'm going to put it on the outside of my microwave wheel for 15 seconds. The reason for that is that it's going to soften the product and it's going to make it easier for me to mix it in with my pigments that I have. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with another spatula and I'm going to start taking that wax out and I'm going to drop it right into the center of my pigment. And because I'm going to be putting my product back in that container after I make it up, I want to get as much wax out of that container as I can. Okay. So now I'm a right-handed person. I take my left hand, I put my thumb at the bottom of the plastic sheet, my index finger at the top, and now I'm just going to go in and take my spatula. It's a very technical term. I'm going to mush it in to the pigment. And the key is with, you're doing this, you're not working with the top of the spatula, you're looking with the back and the side of the spatula, moving it in. Okay, next, I'm going to put my additives in. Now, if I was going to add frost, I would add it now, but I'm not going to put frost into this formula. So I'm going to take my multifloral, which is my antioxidant formula, and I can go up to 6 drops with that. Next, I'm going to use my Silconene modifier, which creates that slip and glide, and I'm going to do 6 drops with that. From there, I'm going to put my scent in. I happen to like the mint julep myself. It gives you that cool, refreshing feeling. And I'm going to put 6 drops of that. And then, because I like my lipstick formulas creamier, you don't have to do this, but I like my formula creamier. So I take my moisture additive and I use one, oops, there we go. I use 1 full milliliter of moisture additive. Okay. Now, once I've done that, now what I need to do is I need to mix that in with the rest of my formula. So again, I'm always mixing from the outside in, not from the inside out. So just doing a little pushing and grinding with that. Now, the one thing you'll find, if you soften your product, you can't liquefy it, because if you liquefy it and you put it down on your board, it's going to take forever. Well, what happens is it gets really hard again. That's what it does. Okay, so I have no big lumps in my product. From here, I'm going to come back. I'm going to get my container. Now I'm going to start picking up the product and dropping it down into the center of the container. You can't scrape it on the side because wax doesn't melt on the sides of the container. Once I put a little bit in, I'm going to tap that container to let it settle in more. And then I'm going to clean my sheet off as good as I can. Tap it down, put the lid underneath it. Now it's going to go into my microwave for 30 seconds. While that is doing that, I'm going to clean my tools off. Get rid of my plastic sheet. These cannot be reused because there's oils and waxes on it. And if I happen to get something onto my calibrator board, like you say, I got a little piece on there, I'm just going to take isopropyl alcohol, spray it, and it cleans right up. Now, as soon as your product is done, and you can see it's nice and liquefied at this point. What's extremely important, which you don't see, is your pigment, and if I were to put frost in here, it's heavier than the wax and it will sink to the bottom. So you got to stir it well. When you pour, you're going to over pour the top because it sinks slightly in the center. When you do a full body color, you can make 3 lipsticks out of that. Okay, now that's going to take 5 minutes to congel. So while that's congealing, I'm going to bring you back over here and we're going to make a lip gloss. So I'm going to use the polish formulation for this lip gloss. Now, lip gloss is really easy to make because you don't put it on the calibrator board. So you go in, you take the product, you stir it up. And when we make it, we put our pigment in by the drops. So we can go up to the highest level in making this product. We can go up to 27 drops of pigment. So because I said I'm going to make a neutral tone with this, but not just a brown tone, I want to have some life to it at the same time. I'm going to use for this my coral, my white, and my cocoa, which is the taupey brown. So when you're doing a drop, you see the drop start to come, you release it. See the drop, release it. I'm just going to start minimal. And this is what's fun because you put a little bit in, you start to see your color, and then you make that determination, is this what I want the color to look like, or where do I want to take it from there? So right now, I can go up to 27 drops with this color. Okay. Now, when I'm doing a beigey color like this, I'm not going to make it that high pigmented. Okay. Let me show you. This is a color, and we have diamond dust in here. You can see the glistening to it. This is a color that has been brought up to 27 drops. So you can see it almost reads like a liquid lipstick. Okay. So you can see that's pretty pink, isn't it? And it has lightness. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cocoa and I'm going to do 1 drop of cocoa. And watch when I stir this in, look how it mutes the color right down. So it darkens and mutes. That's what I was talking about. You know, when I was talking about the browns earlier, we know they're going to darken and mute color when we add it in. So you look at that color and say, well, gee, what do you think? Well, I think that's a pretty color myself. So, but I've only got 5 drops of pigment in here. So I'm going to go in and add a little bit more. So I've got, so far, I've got 2 coral, 2 white, and 1 cocoa. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do 4 coral. So that's going to take me up to 6. I'm going to do 4 more white. That's going to take me up to 12. And 1 more, or 2 more. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We also have a lip gloss package too. So if you're not ready to get into lipsticks, but you'd like to do gloss, we have that available at the same time. And any system that you purchase from us comes with training with me. Okay, so now I'm going to stir that in. And what you'll see is the color really hasn't changed. It just looks richer. Okay, so really pretty neutral. Now, what I'm going to add to this is I'm going to take some champagne and I'm going to go in with my tiny scoop, flat top, and I'm going to put 2 tinies of champagne into this formula. And I'm just going to blend that in. Got to blend a little slow when you start because the frost will poof up. And what you find is it just muted that color just a tiny bit. Next, I'm going to take our Morganite, Rose Copper to Gold, and I'm going to add that in. It just creates such an interesting effect. And I'm going to add 3 tinies. I can go up to 7, or I can go up to 14 tiny scoops in here. So I've got 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to stir this in. I have to look and see what I'm doing here. Okay. Now at this point, you could test the color. You can take a lip brush, put a little color on, and that's what that color looks like right there. It's a pretty nude. Next, I'm going to add my scent, and it will only be 3 drops of scent for the lip gloss. And then I'm going to add some lip plump. And for my lip plump, I can go up to 6 drops of lip plump. Okay. I'm going to stir that in really well. And now I'm going to put it in the microwave to melt it down. So when I put this in the microwave to melt it down, it takes a little longer to melt your lip gloss compared to your lipstick, because lip gloss is a soft wax where lipstick is a hard wax. So this is going into my microwave for 45 seconds. Now, while that's doing that, what I want to do is I want to get my packaging all ready. So this is going to go into a wand with a stopper. I just keep my products together like that, my packaging, and then I can separate it once I'm ready to use it. Okay, we've got 15 more seconds with that. And then when that's done, I'm going to take the lipstick out and cap that up. So you can see how that's done also. Now again, when I take this out of the microwave, what's really important that I stir it really well before I pour it into the container. It should feel warm to the touch, not hot. I could get 2 lip glosses out of this, but I'm only going to pour 1 right now, and then I can cap this up. I can reheat this later and pour another one. So when I pour, I stand to it and hold my arms in. Pour a little bit from a distance, only to the bottom of the black line. Now, as you can see, I got a little of the product right there on the side. I'm just going to take the wand and remove that. You've got to take it off because you don't want, if you put your stopper in, and I just take a piece of tissue and push the stopper down. Then your wand goes in and screw it down. If you can't get it screwed on, you pour too much in. That's really pretty color. Now, that's really hot at this moment. So as it cools, when you put it on, you're going to get more payoff out of it compared to when it's really hot. So with the lipsticks, you can see I will pour the top. You see how they have sunk down into the bottom. I take my bent knife, spatula, cut those tops off. I just put it back in the container that I made it from. Undo the top screw, swing the arm all the way out to the side, pull that off, and you can see your lipsticks are standing up. Then you take your lipstick tube, screw it all the way up. You see that white rim. I look straight over the top to put that on, and then gently push it down to the metal. Then do not wiggle it. If you wiggle it, then you break the integrity right there. And voila, you have a beautiful lipstick. So that's customizing with our lipstick system and lip gloss. We also have a liquid matte. I hope you've enjoyed that today, and it's been fun for you, as much fun as it is for me. I always love doing these programs and working with the lipstick. Any custom blend is fun as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for being with me today. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so I'm going to stay on for just a couple more minutes. For those of you, if you have not done so already, please make sure that you have typed in your full name, your full school name, and location into the chat box. This will help with attendance so that I can get your information over to your schools. So I will go ahead and get that done. So please make sure that you've put that information into the chat box. What was the breakdown for the lip gloss color? Nancy just jumped off. I did record this one, so I will have this recording at some point posted on our YouTube channel, so you guys can go back and watch that to get her formulation down. So again, if you have not done so already, please make sure that your full name, your full school name, and location is in the chat box so that I can
Hi
get your
Nancy, how you
attendance.
doing?
So again, if your information does not appear in the chat box, there is no way I can track your information to prove that you were logged in. So again, please make sure that you have typed in your full name, full school name, and your school location into the chat box so I can get that information over to your schools. And I'm going to stay on for just another minute or so to give you guys time to type that information in if you have not done so yet. have not done so already, please make sure that your information is in the chat box so we can send that over to your school for attendance. I'm going to stay on for one more minute and then I'm logging off. All right, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.